Hey everybody, welcome to the Properties of Water Lab. I'm Mr. McCall.
And I'm Ms. Nocera.
And we're here to share with you the amazing properties of water. We're going to talk a little bit about the chemistry of water, and first, of course, we need to figure out what are the atoms and elements involved in water. We have
hydrogen and oxygen.
Yeah, and of course we know there's the two, hydrogen and the oxygen, but here's the thing. What is the bond between the hydrogen and oxygen in the water molecule? If you said a polar covalent bond, you are correct. Because remember, the electrons that are shared in this bond are being hogged by the oxygen, meaning that oxygen has a partial negative charge and hydrogen has a partial positive charge. These polar regions of the water molecule cause a special bond to form between water molecules called
hydrogen bonds.
Yeah, and if you look at this wonderful model, all of these gray pieces are hydrogen bonds. And I'm going to pull off a water molecule here just so you can see what's happening. So the negative region of the water molecule is being partially attracted to the positive region of a hydrogen molecule. And these bonds break and reform all the time.
And if you can imagine that happening within a larger concepts, it's just constantly changing.
All right, guys, it's time to start part one of the lab, which is all about cohesion and adhesion.
Cohesion is the ability of water to bond with itself, and adhesion is the ability of water to attach itself to another surface.
Yeah, and so we are going to do a little lab to demonstrate this using some common household stuff.
We have two 500 milliliter beakers. We have two 50 milliliter beakers with 10 milliliters of hand sanitizer in one and 10 milliliters of water in the other. We also have two pencils, each with a piece of paper towel and taped on it, on the pencil.
The idea is real simple. We are going to put the paper towel dipped into either the water or the hand sanitizer and see how far up the paper towel either of them travels. Now this is, of course, if you think about developing a hypothesis, right? What do you think is going to happen? You have water, which is a polar substance, right? And you have hand sanitizer, which is 70% alcohol, that is non-polar, right? How would that set up? What are our independent variables? What are our dependent variables in this scenario? All right, so it is time to get started. I'm gonna put the 10 milliliters of fresh water in the beaker for our freshwater experimental, and
we'll put 10 milliliters of hand sanitizer in the 500 milliliter beaker.
All right, so now, moment of truth, we are gonna start placing them into the jars, the beakers, there we go. Now we're gonna wait 5 minutes. And we're back. So
5 minutes later,
let's pull these out and see where we are. So we're gonna lay them out on the surface here and measure. Go ahead and grab the millimeters. Yep.
Ruler, and we're going to measure the distance that the water traveled up the paper towel. And in this case, we have 9 centimeters. Approximately 9 centimeters, the water traveled up the paper towel. Now I'm going to try the hand sanitizer. And in this case, it looks like it traveled about 2 centimeters.
So if we're recording this, the water, we had a distance of 9 centimeters. And what was the other one?
2.
2 centimeters. I'm gonna make a better centimeter there because that was weird. And that is our data for this part of the lab.
We're going to go ahead and get started with part 2 of our water lab. In this case, we're going to look at solubility, or water's ability to dissolve many different solids, giving it the very special term universal solvent. It's because of these polar abilities a water has that it's able to dissolve the solids that makes it called this. So what we're going to take a look at in this section of the lab is how water can dissolve 1 gram of salt. And we're going to compare that with how ethanol, or in this case hand sanitizer, is going to dissolve the 1 gram of salt.
Now that we're all set to go, let's make some pre-observations. What do you think it's going to look like when we put the salt in the water and mix it around? And what do you think it's going to look like when we put the salt in the ethanol and mix it around? Make your observations on your lab form. All right, guys, so now we are going to go ahead and do this. I have my handy dandy little tray, sample tray, which I'm going to put on here. It's already zeroed out, and I'm going to pour some salt to get 1 gram. See how well I can do this.
We zero out the tray to make sure that the weight of the tray isn't accounted for when we weigh it.
Yep. Now I'm going to dump it in here. This is the water, and we're going to mix it up.
Make sure you're taking some observations on what you're seeing here.
I'm going to go ahead and while that is doing its thing, I'm going to pour out some more here for the next ethanol section. All right, here we go.
Can make your observations.
It is kind of neat how that does that. All right, now we're going to give it about a minute or so just to let it settle out, and then we're going to check out the results. All right, we are back, and let's take a closer look at what we've got going on here. All right, that is the conclusion of part 2. So you have now seen cohesion and adhesion in action in part 1, and you've seen water's solubility properties in part 2. Make sure you hit part 3 and 4 to learn all about salinity and pH.